Ladies and gentlemen, upon completion of the Deepstone Crypt raid on day 1, a new exotic quest was made available to the masses. You can pick this quest up from Banshee if you haven't done so already, and this is an 11-step exotic quest that should take you about 2 hours to complete if you're moving at a moderate pace. But the reward for finishing this quest is the Lament exotic sword. This weapon is part sword, part chainsaw, and it looks like a weapon that could have been pulled straight from the Doom franchise. I mean, this thing looks, sounds, and feels very aggressive. And while that's all well and good, the real question is, what does it do, and how well does it perform? But with swords in general, it's kind of hard to get a baseline feel of what they're capable of without a measuring stick, or some sort of tangible comparison. So I decided to pit the Lament against what many people consider to be the gold standard for swords currently, the Falling Guillotine. This sword rose to prevalence very quickly in Season of Arrivals due to the massive amount of damage it could output. Which, I mean, happened to be unintentional, and it was patched out. But even after that nerf, it still remained the most powerful sword in the game. Then in Beyond Light, Falling Guillotine's damage was nerfed yet again. And even after that nerf, it still remains one of the best swords that you can equip. But did this last nerf leave the door open for a new contender to rise to the top? And is the Lament the sword that could potentially take its place? Well, that's precisely what we're here to find out. And if at any point during this video you find it useful, helpful, or enjoyable, please remember to leave it a like and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel. Both are completely free and go a long way in helping out the overall success of this video and this channel as a whole. But let's kick things off with a quick look at each weapon's stats and perks. Alright, starting things off with a comparison of each weapon's stats, and they are strikingly similar. The only real advantage here seems to go to the Lament in the impact department. But keep in mind, due to the fact that Falling Guillotine is a legendary weapon, these stats can be slightly adjusted, through random perks or through the masterwork of the weapon. With Falling Guillotine, our intrinsic trait is Vortex Frame, where you can launch a heavy spin attack that is stronger when the energy meter is full, and partially bypasses elemental shields. The roll that I decided to test for this video also has Whirlwind Blade, where rapid sword strikes increase the weapon's damage for a short time. And when I did the weapon testing, I did unsocket the boss spec from this sword. With the Lament, we kinda have a lot going on here. The intrinsic trait is Banshee's Wail. Hold guard to rev the blade. This will increase damage, bypass shields, and add barrier piercing to all attacks. You'll also gain stacks of Banshee's Wail with every revved attack that lands on a target. Additional stacks increase damage and damage resistance of heavy attacks. We also have the exotic perk, Revved Consumption, where damaging combatants with this weapon will heal the wielder. But this sword also comes with Tireless Blade, regenerating ammo for every other sword kill. And moving back to our Falling Guillotine one more time, we also have some ammo regenning capability through Relentless Strikes, where landing 3 light attacks grants sword ammo. So just on paper, these two swords are extremely similar in nature. But let's move on to the meat and potatoes of the video and look at each weapon's functionality and damage output. Alright, let me just start off by saying there was a lot of testing involved here, and there are going to be a lot of damage numbers coming your way. I'm going to be trying to move as quickly as possible while still communicating these numbers accurately. And do keep in mind that damage numbers in PvE are relative to your power level and the combatant's power level. But this still will give us a good baseline sense of what each weapon is capable of. And we'll start out with Falling Guillotine just to get the easy one out of the way first. We have our basic light attack dealing 17,839 points of damage at base. We have our heavy spin attack dealing 11,819 points of damage per impact, and a single spin will connect up to 6 times. This gives us the potential damage of 70,914 on a single target. Do keep in mind that this is when our sword energy meter is full. When our sword meter is empty and we launch one of these heavy attacks, we'll only deal 4,917 points of damage per contact. This totals out to 29,502 on a single target. Now we do have a damage buff also with Whirlwind Blade. Each light attack will grant 1 stack, and each heavy spin attack will grant only 1 stack no matter how many times you connect. We can build up to 5 stacks, and each stack will give us a 5% damage increase. Here's how the damage shakes out for the light attacks. If you want to do the charged and uncharged heavy attacks on your own, feel free. 5% increase per stack. But this means at 5 stacks, our damage output is upped by 30%. So we're dealing 23,191 on a light attack, 38,352 on an uncharged spin attack, and with a maxed out Whirlwind Blade and a fully charged spin attack, we're doing 14,494 points of damage per impact, for a total of 86,964 points of damage in total. And quick side note here, can I please get a test range back, Bungie? I probably could have done all of this testing in about an hour in the Tribute Hall. Now I'm burning up a full Sunday afternoon having to test this in a lost sector like a caveman. And I'm sorry, I had to say my piece and get that off my chest. But back on topic. Moving on to the Lament. Our base light attack is going to hit for 20,163 points of damage, which is roughly 2,000 points of damage more than Falling Guillotine. The heavy attack will score 5 hits on a single target when fully charged. We're seeing 20,163 again on the initial contact, but each of the other 4 hits are hitting for 12,182 points of damage as the blade drags upward on the target. So the total damage we're looking at here is 68,891, roughly 2,000 points of damage less than Falling Guillotine's spin attack. When your sword meter is uncharged, this heavy attack registers for a total of 24,196 points of damage and only has a single point of impact. This is roughly 5,000 points of damage less than Falling Guillotine when it is not charged. Now to rev our sword, we hold the guard button. Light attacks when revved will consume sword energy, but each hit will grant you 1 stack of Banshee's Wail per contact. If your sword energy hits 0, you will lose all your stacks, and if you stop guarding, you will lose all your stacks here also. A light revved attack is going to do 20,163 points of damage, but now we see 2 more additional strikes in the attack, doing 5,041 points of damage apiece. This totals out to 30,245 for a single light attack. A revved heavy attack is going to do 26,884 points of damage on the initial strike, and then 2 more secondary contacts again at 5,041 points of damage apiece, for a total of 36,966 points of damage. Now when it comes to building stacks of Banshee's Wail and increasing our damage, each individual strike when revved can net you up to 3 stacks. Just keep in mind, if you do launch a heavy attack, this is going to drain your sword meter, resulting in spending all of the stacks you have accumulated. So just to clarify, 1 full swing that makes 3 points of contact will net you 3 stacks. Okay, for a revved light attack, when we have 3 stacks built up, the 2 secondary strikes are remaining consistent at 5,041 points of damage. But the initial contact is hitting for 26,884 points of damage. This totals out to 36,966 points of damage. And we see the exact same numbers come up when we have 6 stacks. So by this we can deduce that light revved attacks will not gain any more of a damage increase when we push it past 3 stacks. For the revved heavy attack though, at 3 stacks, it's doing 53,769 points of damage for the initial contact and 10,032 points of damage for each of the 2 secondary strikes, for a total of 73,833 points of damage. With 6 stacks, the revved heavy attack is going to hit for 80,651 points of damage on the initial contact, and 15,122 points of damage for the secondary strikes. This totals out to 110,895 points of damage. And just in case you were curious, that full combo hit for 178,106 points of damage. Now you probably could squeeze in 1 more light attack in this combo before your sword meter runs dry, but this Minotaur just can't eat that type of damage. Feel free to try it for yourself and let me know what you found out, but I've run this Lost Sector like 50 times at this point, so I'm gonna call damage testing done right here. So next we'll hit on each weapon's utility real quick, and then we'll wrap things up. So while we can pretty much say that the Lament is the clear winner in single target damage, Falling Guillotine is no slouch in that department either. And depending on the situation, Falling Guillotine may still be the stronger option. The base heavy attacks, when charged and uncharged, were better than that of the Lament. And it's far easier to hit Falling Guillotine's max damage potential since the light attacks are not spending sword energy, while the light attacks when revved from the Lament are. Plus, the spinning vortex attack does have the ability to clear out multiple enemies in a single swing, while the uppercut nature of the Lament's heavy attack is mainly focused on a single target. But the Lament itself is certainly not devoid of its passive benefits. Striking enemies with this sword does heal the user, and we're not talking about massive health regen, but a little more survivability at close quarters is never a bad thing. Also, when the sword is revved up, those light attacks seem to be much quicker than they are at base. Plus, this does have anti-barrier capabilities built in, so this can negate the need to run an anti-barrier mod when going into content that does have champions. This also can be nice because it has the ability to punch straight through a Hobgoblin's immune phase, or strike Hydras straight through their revolving shields. But one more thing to consider is that all Falling Guillotine's capabilities are coming from a legendary weapon that can be masterwork and can generate orbs of power. The Lament, on the other hand, is consuming your exotic slot and currently does not have an obtainable catalyst. And with the prevalence of the Charge with Light system and the high orb generation potential of Falling Guillotine, this is definitely something that needs to be factored in. So all in all, both Falling Guillotine and the Lament are absolutely great swords. But for your general run-of-the-mill PvE activities, I still think Falling Guillotine remains the best sword. And this is due to its legendary rarity, its ease of use, and its crowd control capabilities. Plus, in most cases, it does more than enough damage than you will ever need. But if you're going into higher end content, or you know you're going to be squaring off with a boss that you're really going to need damage output on, the Lament very well may be the better choice. You can saw down the most tanky of targets extremely fast as long as you're keeping an eye on your energy meter and timing out your sword combos. So maybe what it really boils down to is, what are you looking for your sword to do? If you want big single target damage, take the Lament. If you're picking up a sword for general use and want a little more versatility, I'd go with Falling Guillotine. But ultimately, the choice is yours, and hopefully I armed you with enough solid information for you to make an informed decision. But since you made it to this point in the video, if you did enjoy it, please remember to leave it a like, and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to see more Destiny 2 content coming your way in the very near future. If you'd like to catch me live, you can look for Ironworker814 on Twitch. I swear I'm gonna be back on there one of these days. Hopefully soon, I promise, I think. And if you'd like to contact me, the best way is simply to comment down below. I'll be sure to get back to you. And with all that being said, I'd like to sincerely thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this video. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.